Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Let's just dive right in today because we are unpacking a really fascinating mystery hidden inside a piece of source material we've been reviewing. We're looking at a crazy account from an advanced meditation and yoga teacher about one of his students. And honestly, it's going to fundamentally challenge how you and I think about practice, dedication, and the hidden traps of unwavering loyalty. 64. I really want you to let the weight of that number sink in for a second. We aren't talking about days or weeks or even months. We are talking about 64 years. That is longer than most people keep a mortgage, let alone stick to a daily habit. But in the context of our source material today, this massive number represents something deeply tragic. It represents 64 years of daily practice that resulted in absolutely zero substantive progress. It really forces us to pause and ask, is it literally possible to practice a skill, any skill, every single day for over 6 decades and not move forward an inch? I mean, instinct tells us, no way, practice makes perfect, right? But the reality documented here tells a very different story. It's about an 80-year-old student who fell into a trap that honestly a lot of us unknowingly fall into, whether it's in our careers, our fitness routines, or just our own personal development.
So, to understand exactly how something like this happens, let's open up Chapter 1. The 64-year stagnation.
The source outlines the journey of this woman who was supposed to be on a highly advanced spiritual level. She was incredibly dedicated. She literally never missed a day. But as we trace her timeline, it becomes super clear why she was completely stuck. At age 16, a really young, impressionable age, she was initiated by a master. And according to the source, this master was the real deal. Fast forward a bit, about 25 years ago, our source actually met this woman and explicitly warned her that her specific methods were weak and just wouldn't get her very far. But she absolutely refused to listen. She stayed blindly loyal to her late master's instructions. It wasn't until she was almost 80 years old, literally just a few weeks shy of her birthday, that she finally agreed to change her protocol. And the result? On the very first day of trying the new structured method, she achieved progress she couldn't have even imagined during the previous 64 years.
Which brings us right into Chapter 2, Power versus Protocol.
So you've got to wonder, how exactly do you fail when you're taught by someone who is undeniably brilliant and powerful? Well, notice the stark contrast here. On one side, you have this initiation by a powerful guru. The teacher had intense spiritual power, which was meant to awaken her potential. But then, on the other side, look at her actual daily protocol. Our source notes she was practicing breathwork on a remarkably amateur level. She was just doing 3 rounds of alternate nostril breathing at a below-average capacity. The really profound lesson here is that all the initial inspiration in the world simply cannot compensate for a flawed daily system. You absolutely have to practice the correct techniques with the correct protocol. In fact, the source explicitly warns against the danger of a closed mind, asking, does it mean there was some deficiency in what you were taught? Keep an open mind to enrich your personal advancement. You see, the woman felt that adapting her routine meant betraying her late teacher. But adapting a routine to make it actually work for you doesn't contradict past training, it enhances it. This loyalty trap is a real thing, and it kept her locked in mediocrity for an entire lifetime. All right, moving on to Chapter 3, the Everyday Yogi. We really need to introduce the fascinating guy who diagnosed this 64-year failure. His name is Osman. He's a blind Muslim yogi. And his credentials are wild. Yes, he has attained deep spiritual states like samadhi and enlightenment, but he's not floating on a cloud in a cave somewhere. He's an entrepreneur who pays his taxes and raises teenagers. He's been running businesses for 29 years, is permanently blind but entirely self-supporting, and he speaks super openly about overcoming severe addictions to alcohol and cigarettes nearly 2 decades ago. He even manages a really difficult neuropathy condition using a strict whole foods plant diet. So this is a teacher built for real life, somebody who truly understands the stresses of the modern economy and the limitations that everyday people face. Because of that background, he developed a brilliantly simple solution. Let's look at Chapter 4, the 2-week test. Because Osman fundamentally understands everyday life, he was super passionate about creating protocols that don't demand you abandon your career or your family. He recognized the tragedy of people wasting literal decades on broken systems, so the magic number he landed on is 14 days. The source lays out a really firm rule here. Whatever practice or routine you are committing your time to, you must feel a substantive, positive shift within a 2-week period for it to be considered valid for you. Let's break down exactly how this works, step by step, because it's super practical. Step 1, practice a specific protocol. but only for 5 to 15 minutes a day. Very, very low commitment. Step 2, observe your body and mind for positive feelings, energy, or dissipating weaknesses within those 14 days. It definitely doesn't have to be some earth-shattering enlightenment, just a noticeable improvement. And step 3, which is the absolutely critical part, if you are stagnating, like if you feel literally nothing after 2 weeks, you must change the protocol. You do not just blindly continue. To prove how well this works, the source shares an awesome little anecdote about a 28-year-old busy professional. This is a guy who felt he had absolutely zero free time for spiritual practices, but he desperately needed something to manage his high-stress job and his health. So Osman gave him just a 5-minute-a-day practice. Within that 14-day window, the young man didn't experience wild mystical visions or anything, but he did start feeling this comforting energy developing in his forehead. He tangibly felt better. And because he saw actual, verifiable results, he naturally wanted to find the time to expand his practice, right? That is exactly how a successful habit is built.
Which brings us right to our final takeaway today. Chapter 5, Breaking the Loyalty Trap.
We've talked about the 80-year-old woman and the busy young professional, but right now I want you to look at your own habits. The source highlights a totally fascinating scientific finding from studying large groups attempting these practices. About 90% of people can easily adapt to a standard teaching method. But 10% of people, they will feel absolutely nothing, no matter how hard they try or how powerful the teacher is. And you know what? That is perfectly okay. No single method works for everyone. You shouldn't feel guilty for being in that 10%, and you definitely shouldn't feel bad about changing a routine, a diet, or a workout plan that simply isn't giving you results. You've got to find your unique pathway.
So I really want to leave you with this powerful question to chew on today. Look at your own life and those habits you defend just because you've quote-unquote always done them that way. What routine are you repeating right now that hasn't shown you actual substantive results in the last 2 weeks? Honestly, don't let blind loyalty rob you of your precious time. Apply the 2-week test, keep an open mind, and whatever you do, definitely don't wait 64 years to finally make a change.